What's happening, my beautiful people? My name is Mike, and today we are back with another 40 and 40, the classic. And I've got to ask you guys a question because I've been getting a lot of requests. Mike, what's the deal if I don't have as many coins as you, or I'm on a budget? What players do I need to pick up? And I've made a few different videos discussing and talking in more depth some of the most overpowered players in FIFA, but I want you guys to do me a solid and in the comments, what players can you get on a budget? We're going to discuss it in this video that are FUT Champs certified. On screen you see the team, pretty much the same, except we've got David Villa, who's going to be playing as a left striker. I'm trying out somebody a bit new. We got that birthday edition. Are you using any of those birthday edition cards? But let's get straight into the gameplay. I got 40 games to talk about. If you need cheap codes or cheap games, head on over to g2a.com. I'm going to leave links down below in the description. They always hook it up. Use Dirty at checkout. Record 0-0 or 0-0, just depending where you're from. And I want to start out by just discussing David Villa. I'm not going to do a complex squad review because we've seen this team. If you're part of the live stream, you've been on my YouTube channel, a lot of my squad, at least offensively, is what you would normally see if you are at that top tier level in terms of squad building and creating a team that you can remake and replicate for that live event. I've also got some feedback regarding the live event, how it should be structured, tournament, and what's good and what's bad that we're going to discuss just a little bit later on. You know, this series is more of a conversation piece where I sit here, I get to talk to you, and we get to discuss FIFA, kind of go back and forth, get some dialogue rolling, all that good material. You see me in the Houston Dynamo units. I like that. We're actually having a better season, actually a decent season. Pretty solid season thus far, especially compared to last year if you keep up with the MLS. But let's look at David Villa. What's good, what's bad, what's amazing, what's in between, what kind of superlatives or negative, I don't want to say traits, but negative attributes, what really matters? Maybe I should call it that. We're going to do an actual player review, which is kind of rare on my channel to give this much time to one player, but for me to add a new player into the starting 11 that you haven't seen before, that's not that cheap, and that he's new, he's been added into the game recently, people always are like, hold on, is that card worth it? Let's talk about it. His pace on this card, it's an 87. Does it feel like an 87? No. Is his positioning excellent? Yes. He's got the high-low work rates. He's in the right place at the right time. I would say his pace is closer to an 82 to an 83 area. If I had to give a quick comparison, maybe kind of like a Suarez in terms of his pace. So if you get a breakaway, he's not gone just yet. He might be a little bit quicker than Suarez. It might not be fair to knock him down quite to the Suarez level of terms of his speed, but he's not an 87 pace. I wish he was, especially since I slapped the Hunter card on him. I mean, you could slap a Hawk on him, but I did not feel that type of bump. I didn't notice it when I was in match. Now let's talk about his shooting. Shooting, 93 on the card. It's better than a 93. Or it's at least equal to it. It's incredible. It's definitely his best attribute. David Villa does not let you down. He's got a 5-star weak foot, which is a big selling point. If I was a salesman, I would lead off with that. Man, my guy has a 5-star weak foot. How many strikers do you know that have a 5-star weak foot? And I would say with that type of energy as well. But it's important if you need a secondary striker. It's nice if you're playing him as a cam or a center mid. Anywhere really where you're going to utilize that off foot more than you realize, because a lot of players are kind of one-footed in this year's installment, especially when you're looking at long shots or finesse shots, and it gives you a major advantage at the higher levels where if it comes to your left, if it comes to your right, you can take it. You don't have to wait. You don't have to shift the ball onto your stronger, your more dominant foot. No, you don't have to worry about those types of additional, well, I don't want to say tendencies, but tendencies you have to make as a FIFA player where you've got to think, okay, Griezmann, get on your left. Please never shoot with your right. Get on your left. Or same goes with Gareth Bale. And there's many right-footed players that I could also bring up and we can do a little compare and contrast. But the point is, his shooting is top notch, top drawer. Does he have it in his locker? He always has it in his locker. And any shot selection you like, it works. If you want to finesse it, you want to go for power, across the body, near post, you name it, it is good to go. He is certified in terms of both feet and his shot-taking ability. Let's move on. What's his passing look like, Mike? I think on the card it was an 83. That matched. His passing was solid. I don't think people always give enough credit to, especially with strikers, their ability to facilitate. They can rack up those assists. It doesn't even need to be a striker-to-striker through ball or a pass with, I guess, just quick moving. It doesn't always go noticed is the point that I'm bringing up in terms of passing, especially with strikers. But is it appreciated? Yes. Should it be noticed? Yes. Should he get some cookies and brownies and whatever dessert this man wants? Get him a cannoli if you're Italian, excuse me, you understand? Ah, boy, do I like cannolis. That's or a tiramisu. We'll make it happen, Captain. But his facilitation is good. Whether you need to swing it out wide, you need a long pass, short pass, through ball, placement seems good, curve seems good. I can trust him in terms of being able to make that last pass or a difficult pass. And I want to say there was some sort of patch 3 weeks to a month ago. And from that point forward, there's been some changes both offensively and defensively. And this David Villa card is well adjusted. Dribbling, first touch, don't worry about it. I think his card is an 89. That's about right. It's in that area. His first touch is clean. It's crisp. It's not Neymar beauty. It's not Neymar silkiness, but it's on point. I like it. Might be able to compete with the Ronaldos of the world in terms of first touch. I actually think that Neymar does a little bit better receiving. Ronaldo is just more physical, more athletic, so if his touch isn't perfect, he's still going to get there. But you don't want to have players that have that Loic Remy touch. That's bad news. We don't need to talk about defense because I don't care. He's not playing defense. David Villa, one of his cons, he's 5'8", maybe 5'9". He's not a big guy. He doesn't look big. He doesn't look stocky on the pitch. And that brings me to my next point. It's going to be physical. Physical. Does he have a 79 physical on his card? Yeah. Does it feel like a 79 physical? No. Unfortunately, I would say he feels, if I had to give another comparison, especially out of the players that I'm using in this squad, I'd like to go with Mr. George Best, and that's a 68. But George Best, I felt, was a similar type of physicality to David Villa. So if you're someone who wants to do heavy shielding, if you want to big body people around, forget about it. And because his breakaway speed isn't an 87 or up, it's not what his card says, and then with a chem style it doesn't improve. If you do get a breakaway, you're going to still need to do something, whether it's another skill, whether it's going to be one more pass, maybe take the shot a tad bit early. You got to have to do something because he's not going to get too many breakaways where he actually is able to separate himself from the defender. In fact, it usually goes the other direction, and as I just mentioned, he doesn't have the physical attributes, at least if we're talking about feel, to really big body or push somebody around. For example, if you had Ibrahimovic, I don't know if you should break that up quite like that, but if you have Ibra and he gets a breakaway, is he going to beat anybody for pace? No. But his physicality and his dribbling, when you combine the two, it's still a problem. He can still control that breakaway, he can big body you around. It's hard to tackle him from behind. David Villa, you don't feel anything near that same type of issue or concern. Or if you're on the other end with Ibra and his physical nature, you'd be a positive where you love it. I don't see Ibra used much in the weekend league these days. But I want to transition now away from that. In terms of custom tactics, they've been the same. Really haven't made any adjustments in probably a month. I think custom tactics are more about just comfort, getting used to everything. If you like it, you like it. You love it, you love it. You hate it, you need to make changes. But offensively, I almost feel that custom tactics are mental, just all about your mental. When you're looking at the offense, do you play fast? Do you feel slow? Do you think this helps? Do you think this helps? Not necessarily does it really help. And I'll just reiterate for everybody who could be new to my channel, well, welcome. But defensively, that's where you start noticing custom tactics. What's your pressure? What's your aggression? What's your width? Are you on cover? Are you on offside trap? These are going to be the areas where custom tactics start to be very noticeable. If it's good, if it's bad, if it works, if it doesn't, if you feel comfortable and confident, then great. If you don't, oh my goodness, you're going to have problems. But shall we transition? I think we should. Now, when you're looking at budget players, and I'm not even going to just say budget players, but you're building a budget team. Let's say you have 100,000 coins, 200,000 coins, 500,000 coins, whatever your budget may be. We all have one, for the most part. There are some people that put enough money into the game or just had good enough pack luck where perhaps you have that unlimited budget. But most of us, even if it's a big budget, you've got something you've got to work with in terms of how many coins do you have, who are you saving with. And it's important to make sure you're allocating your coins to players that are going to make a difference. If you're going to spend 100K on a player and you only have 200,000 or 300,000 coins, you got to make sure that you get the maximum out of that player. And if you don't, then let's move on. And that's something to always keep in mind. And that's why I like keeping statistics, because sometimes you notice it in a game where over 40 matches or 20 matches, you're noticing tendencies. Man, this guy's build up is great. Oh man, I can trust this player. Oh, he moves the ball around so nicely. It's crisp, it's clean. I like it. And he's maybe doing the pass before the assist, so he doesn't necessarily have the stats, or he's just being able to dance around, breaking up plays, whoever it might be, or what type of player it might be on your squad. But outside of that, it's important to keep stats, because there's going to be those games where maybe you score 3, 4, 5 goals. Who knows? Maybe you score 1 or 2 goals, and they're ugly goals, but the ball finds your guy's feet, finds his foot in the right circumstance, the right scenario, the right situation, and that keeps happening. And there's a lot of value in attacking positioning and players that are just constantly in the right place at the right time. That's one, I'm going to use Griezmann again as an example, but that's something that makes Griezmann so special this year. It's not that he's got a gifted left foot, it's not that he's fast, it's not that he has 4-star skills. It's because his positioning is that good, and if you combine that with a very nice, clean, I've used clean now a couple times. PG would be very proud of this clean, this cleanliness. I did not get that to come out right whatsoever. Never been the best with pronunciation. I won't lie. On the channel, sometimes there are some mispronunciations, and other times it's got some fantastic emphasis on all the right syllables. We're breaking it up good. I remember when I was younger, I actually went to speech impediment classes when I was in elementary school. Just on an entire different note, nothing to do with FIFA, but I remember that I had a lot of pronunciation issues when I was younger, and I used to have to go during lunch or right after school and go hit those speech impediment classes. I used to walk to, I think it was a middle school that wasn't attached, but it was down the street from the elementary school. And for the UK or the European people, basically elementary school I think is what, we must go up to 11 years old, 10 years old, and then middle school is 11 to 13, 10 to 13, around that area. Okay, so I used to walk over there and I'd sit down. I don't remember the teacher's name or the instructor's name, and we'd work on different words. I remember it was myself, this girl that was always in there, and there was some other guy from the middle school, so I'm sure he was unhappy. He's got a couple elementary school kids, not making him feel better about himself. Like, damn, I do not want to go hang out with these young guys that are having trouble pronunciating words just like me. Well, I took that somewhere totally different. But with Griezmann, let me rewind. With Griezmann, I think it's his attacking positioning to go with his first touch that makes him so gifted this year. I don't think it's his speed, or even, like I said, he's got an excellent shot if you use his left foot, and his finishing is stellar on that left foot, and these are great characteristics. But I just think he's in the right place at the right time, always making the correct runs, and you don't have to tell him over and over again, please move, please go, please over the top, in behind, check for the ball. And I think we often don't give credit, or we often overlook how valuable good positioning can be, whether it's in the midfield, whether it's in the attack, whether it's defending. It can save you over and over again when you're playing FUT Champs and you're looking for this level of consistency. Because that's what FUT Champs is all about. How consistent can I be? This is not a head-to-head tournament. When I'm going up against, let's look at some of the top guys, the Amons, the Yanos, the Raw FIFA, in terms of online qualification, the Iceman. If I forget anybody's name or leave you out, I apologize. It's just coming off the top. I don't have written notes somewhere that we're reviewing. But when you look at the guys that get the 40-0s, Ju Senna, a lot of guys that are always on the leaderboards, I'm not having to play these guys. They're not having to play me to get those scores. So this is not a head-to-head tournament. This is more of a who has the best consistency in terms of going up against a lot of variety, many different opponents, and that's kind of what it comes down to. That's going to be your breakdown when you're playing FIFA in FUT Champs. It's not you versus this guy or this guy. It's you versus the world in a way, and being able to bring your best game or your top tier FIFA ability, or just squeezing out W's. I would say at least 10 of the wins I get every weekend, they're not the prettiest. They might be a 1-0. It might be off a corner kick. In fact, there's a corner kick game. That's right, I said a corner kick game. There was a matchup where I think I had 3 corners and won 3-2. And my opponent wasn't very good, and I was just struggling. I didn't play well, but we were able to squeak out that W, and that's the difference between maybe 30 wins and 35 wins, is being able to squeak out a few, or 25 and 30 wins. For you guys that always are asking me, hey, how do I get out of gold? A lot of people tend to find themselves stuck in, I would say, gold 2 to gold 1 area, and they really struggle to get into elite, especially because it's so many matches. So once you get triggered, once you're a little bit upset, once things aren't flowing quite as smooth, then it could be a long day for you in FUT. And people do play like a hoe. In fact, I would say this game mode makes you a bit of a monster. When I started playing FIFA this year, I was way more laid back, relaxed, a lot more low-key. I was enjoying myself. I'm not saying I'm not now, but I'm just saying that FUT Champs kind of changes you where, okay, there's 10 minutes left. Do I need to shield here? Do I need to slow down the game a little bit more? Do I need to try to play some additional possession play? How do I want to deal with this situation? Because there's nothing worse than playing 80 minutes of a good match. You did what you needed to do, and then blowing it at the end, giving up an equalizer, giving up a late winner, conceding whenever it might be, and then you sit there and second guess yourself. Should I have switched to this formation? Should I have gone in this direction? What did I need to do? But we're gonna move away from that, all right? And I do want to talk about, look, actually I did write down some notes. Hold on, let me come over here. Let's talk about formations a little bit, because I actually have questions about this myself for you guys, and I know the comments are gonna be hopefully erupting with all sorts of different players that work on that top tier budget, whether it's 20K, 30K, 40K a player, whatever it might be. I just know that people can't always have the Paul Pogbas, the Ruud Hullets, the inform Sandros, the inform Kyle Walkers, the Blancs, and the Ferdinands, the Ronaldos, the Gareth Bales. I realize that you're gonna have to make choices when you're building a lot of your teams. You're not going to be able to get every single guy that you want in the starting 11 in the majority of circumstances. Back to formations. And this also plays a part in discount players or looking at just building a team on a budget. What formation do you think would be the best for budget builds? And the reason I bring this up is because I feel as if you're making a budget team, that playing a wide formation gives you a little bit more time on the ball, a little additional, you gotta say it like that. But with additional time allows you to make the right decision, you're not as rushed, and I feel that it also gives you an advantage if you're not necessarily in the best of matchups. If you play a narrow formation versus narrow formation, it's gonna be a lot of rushing, a lot of high pressure if you're playing at a high level, and what happens is if somebody has a much better team than you and they are on the same level as you as a player or very close, then they can big body you around. They can win some of those 50-50s. They can dictate how this kind of shapes in terms of the match. How this match shapes up, I'll say it like that. So if you want to play fast, if you want to play slow, they can dominate the midfield. They can just make sure things happen. And I say they, sound like DJ Khaled right now. They don't want you to win. They don't want you to succeed. They don't want to see you happy. No, but if you're doing narrow versus narrow, and one person has a superior team, and y'all are on similar levels as players, that guy is going to win the majority of those matches. However, if somebody's up against you, similar level of players, but you're in a wide formation, he's in a narrow formation, you have a lot less expensive players, maybe just not quite as a good team, you can still compete. At least from my experience, I've had so many frustrating matches versus wide formations that are defensive. If I don't take my chances, I typically don't make quite as many, and what happens is then I end up in a sweat fest of a scenario where it's going to be first to a goal, and that gives you a chance. Might not be the biggest fan, I might not be happy, but it gives you a chance if you're on the other side of that matchup to go ahead and steal a victory or grab a win. Maybe you don't have to steal it, you just get a regular straight outright win. Now, my question for you guys, and something that I want to address a little bit, is when you are playing a narrow formation and you go up against someone who's playing a wide formation. And I might do a poll on Twitter talking about this, but do you I'll do A. Do you A, swap formations? Maybe you try to mirror them into another wide base formation. Do you B, do nothing? You're just gonna chill, you're gonna play your game, hopefully get the first goal, and then maybe you can change the pace, or if you want to make a formation switch at that point, cool. Do you C, rage with the game? And do you D, I don't have a D, do I? There's no all of the above. Well, I suppose, yeah, it wouldn't work as an all of the above. But I want to know, basically, do you change formations? Do you try to counter them with another wide formation? Do you stay with what you're doing right now? Do you struggle? Maybe that's what C should be. What is your mindset as a player? What have you found that works best in this type of matchup? Because I've noticed that if I play someone who's on the wings, spreads it very wide, doesn't look to necessarily come inside often, that I end up losing the possession battle and not having as much control, and we're just in a nasty game where I'm no longer able to be the guy that's kind of running the show in terms of the rhythm of the game. And they've kind of disrupted that. And it's not that I'm against a 4-3-3 at all, but I just wonder, is there an easier way to go about this? That's always my reasoning in FIFA. Is there an easier way for me to score goals? Is there an easier way or a more efficient way to make this pass? Is there an easier or just a more effective way to improve this build-up or to defend from this type of circumstance? I'm conceding too often here. What do I need to change in order to make myself a better player, or to build up, once again, that consistency? Because remember, that's what it's all about when you're doing the whole FUT Champs run. When you're making your squad, when you're putting it together, when you're going into games, is trying to get your best package. Yeah, tell a girl that. I'm about to give you my best package. And then after bringing, your A game, it's also just trying to make that happen over and over again. You want to keep that on repeat as best as possible, because it's just going to be hard to beat you. Whether you have expensive team, cheap team, somewhere in between squad, it will be okay if you can bring good gameplay and then combine that with being able to do it over and over again, regardless of your opponent, your style of play, just a little bit of all above. And before you guys say, Mike, come on, man, the servers are trash. I don't like the servers. I understand. We can't do anything about that. What EA does for their servers in terms of where they're connecting us, how many people they have on each of them. If you're in Europe and you're connected to a US server, if you're in the US, connected to a European server, we can't change that. The disconnects, it pisses me off like you have no idea. Camera cut off on me. We're talking about disconnects, and there's very few things that make me more angry. I'd much rather lose a game in penalties, 90th minute, etc. You name it. However, when I feel that the game took a win away from me, I'm disgusted. I'm not happy. I gotta hit something. I gotta go for a walk. But I just have no control over that. And it is what it is. And I saw that Boris Legend, a teammate of mine, hashtag Yvonne, hashtag Boris, however you might know him, good guy. he brought up a very interesting point. It must have been a month or two ago, that if you are going to receive a disconnect, whether it's from the EA servers, whether it's maybe your internet dropping, however you receive this disconnect, that you should have a minute to reconnect into that game. Kind of like a pro clubs, where if you're playing pro clubs and you are inactive, you're not going to be there very long. You're going to be disconnected, but you usually have a second to kind of get yourself back in there. You can itch back in. If you don't push anything on your controller for, I don't know the timer on this, but it's probably around a minute, then of course you're no longer in that game. But if you're just, you know, went to grab a water real quick and you're back into it, you're good to go. But I thought it was a good point that he brought up, and you should only be able to do this once per match. But if I get disconnected then from the EA servers, I have a chance to reconnect, because many times, in fact almost every single disconnect that I've had this year, I lose connection to EA servers, but my internet doesn't drop. So I don't think it's necessarily my fault. I don't know if it's a server overload, if they're not prepared for this, not prepared for that. That's another debate for another time. But this would keep it where if you were winning and you pop the disconnection, you have a chance to get back into that game and still get the W, still get the win. And that's crucial. That could improve efficiency, improve results, and improve frustration. I don't know how easy it is to implement what has been suggested from Yvonne, and something that I'm also co-signing. What do you guys think, actually? Let me know in the comments. I just thought that was a very good solution for the issue that people are having, where EA doesn't get screwed, there's not going to be additional cheating, and it plays towards the pros, or plays towards some of the better players, or even the guys that are not that great, that just don't want to get disconnected. And if it's only going down once a match, once it's been used, it's been used. So you don't have to worry about people maybe trying to jiggle a Ethernet cord, unplug, plug back in. I don't know. You won't have to deal with the nasty side of FIFA, or whatever kind of bullshit that people are going to try to include in the whole abusing the system. And actually I would consider that cheating, but I know that people will mess with their connection. I know that people will try to get out of losing a match. It's just something we can expect in FIFA. It happens all the time, where we had so many issues with DDoS. I remember when you had the FIFA Interactive World Cup before this year, before FUT Champs. It's one of the reasons I stopped playing in it, because it was not a matter of who was good, who wasn't good, but who could cheat the best. And that's no good. At least right now, with FUT Champs, it's how well you play, and then maybe how well you avoid. You want to avoid certain players, but that's the system. They have a saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. And I like to bring that up when I'm talking about FUT Champs. EA implemented a system, and it's not a head-to-head based system. So if you can avoid well, if you get maybe luck in terms of how you get your matchups, who you get matched up with, okay. That's just part of what happens, how it works. This is not a direct peer-to-peer tournament. It's where we're all competing against each other on a leaderboard. Now let's talk about FUT Champs, the live event. This is what should happen, and it won't happen this year. And I've talked about it on a live stream or two, but I don't think I've brought it into a video. So when you go to a regional, when you go to, well, I don't know how FIFA Interactive World Cup is going to do it yet, but when you go to an FUT Champs regional, they give you 4 random groups, and in those 4 groups you play everybody once. So you're going to have 3 maximum games, but for the most part, after 2 matches, you're going to know what happened. So all these matches, all this time, all this build up, and you have some problems here. You're drawn into a group randomly, so it has nothing to do with where you finish, which means you could have the 4 best players in one group and just be unlucky. But that's not a great premise. Number 2, single elimination. We're playing all these games of FIFA. Well, I shouldn't say single elimination. You only play those people once. But we play all these matches of FIFA to qualify. I mean, it's an extreme amount. 40 games every weekend. You're talking about anywhere between, I would say, 10 to 14 hours. 10's pretty lucky if you can get 10 in. That's probably a bad guesstimate. I would say, even with rage quits, because I get a lot of rage quits and it takes me more than 10 hours every weekend. But to be fair, it does take me a while to get into games sometimes. I think people are aware that these are my kits, this is my badge, and folks are like, look, I'm not gonna do this. And there's not that many people rocking the Everton and in the Houston Dynamo kit. So if you want to play, cool, you're no. But if you don't want to play, you can also kind of back out, move around, avoid those types of games. So it is what it is. But the reason I brought up the regional is because that means in about 2 matches of your group stage, your tournament's most likely over. You already know where you're going to finish. In some of the groups, the 3rd game matters a lot. But from being there in Miami, from watching the regional in Paris, and also in Sydney? The regional in Asia. But just seeing them, that's a flaw in the system, in my opinion, because there's a random side, and then after that random side, it's not many games. So it just doesn't... Now the double elimination group stage, all good. I think that's normal. You get out of group, double elimination, that's fine, you're warmed up. This is what I'm proposing they change. Instead of the 4 groups, you either do 2 groups of 8. So that means you're guaranteed 7 games. More of a round robin. You get matched up with everybody. A little less luck involved. Of course, there's kind of an East and a West division. More of the best players could be drawn in one over the other, but that's okay. At least you got 7 games. It's hard to complain that you couldn't get your warm-ups in, that you couldn't get your flow together, that you weren't able to put together some sort of results or build up some consistency or see where you really stand with some of the best players in the world over that amount of games. Now, my second proposed way of putting this together is you still do the same draw that you're doing now. So 4 groups of 4, but instead of playing people once, you play everyone twice. And what that does is it allows you to have basically a home and away, and I'm not saying with aggregate 2 times, just 2 matches, but it gives you some more matches and people could trade results. Maybe there's a little less luck and there's a little more skill, a little more with that consistency, kind of getting your hands warm. You got lights on you, got people talking about the matches, you got a lot going on around you. Maybe you needed a second to get going. But I mean, FUT Champs is all about, or these tournaments are all about building kind of the stars and making sure that you're running an event where everybody has a good chance to win. You put in so much time, you invest so much of your life into qualifying that you don't want your event to be over in 30 minutes. At least that's my reasoning. You see, we've got 37-3. Kind of upset. I blew one of the games at the end. That's sort of rare. 38 would have been a lot better. 37 is not bad though. Don't get me wrong. It's just when you're looking at a qualifying month, 37 is not going to do it unless you're in the rest of the world. I think that's the only reason you can get away with maybe hitting a 37 at this point over and over. I could be wrong. We'll find out. See how this month kind of flows. Also, another quick little flaw, EA, if you're watching. If you have an event over the weekend, how are those people supposed to take part in the weekend league? And if that's an FIWC qualifier, if it's an FUT Champs qualifier, apologies, I had to get a cough out right there. Feeling a little bit parched. But how are people supposed to play if they have a live event that they need to put their focus in, and then they have to, I guess, run home or right after the live event, play some matches, before the live event, play some matches for the weekend league? But we had 30 goals with Ronaldo, pretty consistent, 18 assists, not bad. He's always right there. Villa went for 20 and 13, which in my opinion is a secondary striker, and especially with this type of squad, those are good numbers. Best almost at the 20 and 20, that would have been sick. Other than that, Pogba, Vieira did their typical, I've got about 5 to 8 in assists and goals. Total goals wasn't a super high scoring weekend with 99 goals. Total conceded 24 is not bad. I'm usually in that range. 12 rage quits, 13 corner kicks, and 23 clean sheets. Thanks again for watching. Remember to get in the comments, let me know about these budget players or just teams that are kind of on budgets. Maybe you want to show me your full squad, be like, this is under 500k, this is under 200k, this is under 100k, etc. But I'll have a lot more content for you ASAP. Remember to hashtag it, boys.